Welcome to the Am I the Asshole podcast. Let's get into it. Today, we're going to be talking about why I left my boyfriend. We got our first one titled, Why I Left My Boyfriend. I had been in a relationship with my boyfriend for several years. Our relationship had its ups and downs, but over time, I began to realize that staying together was no longer healthy for either of us. Our relationship had started out strong, but as time went on, I noticed a shift in his behavior. He became increasingly controlling and possessive, often questioning my whereabouts and the people I spent time with. You must have been spending time with some pretty shady people or some dudes that were trying to smash. That's the only way I can kind of think he would have a problem with people you spend time with. He would frequently get angry over minor disagreements and demand that I prioritize him over everything else in my life. Despite my attempts to communicate my discomfort with his behavior, his attitude only seemed to worsen. The final straw came when he became physically aggressive during an argument, crossing a line that I never imagined he would. I knew that I couldn't ignore the red flags any longer and that it was time to leave the relationship. Leaving him was an emotionally challenging decision. While I recognized the toxic nature of our relationship, I also had history with him and cared about his well-being. Part of me wondered if I was being too hasty in ending things, but deep down I knew that my safety and mental health needed to come first. Yeah, if he hitting on you, that's an L. He needs to go. The toxic and abusive behavior had taken a toll on my emotional and physical well-being. I realized that I deserved a partner who treated me with respect, kindness, and empathy. Staying in that relationship would only perpetuate a cycle of pain and fear, and I knew I couldn't let that happen. Leaving him was not about being malicious or hurtful, but about prioritizing my safety and mental health. I grappled with guilt and doubt, but ultimately I needed to protect myself from further harm. It was a difficult decision, but it was the right one for both of us. The hope is that we both find the opportunity for personal growth and healing moving forward. Am I the asshole? Damn. Okay. At first, I was like, this girl's being too much. She doing too much. But then he physically hit her. Now that's where I crossed the line. You don't ever hit a woman over anything. That's going way, 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 way too far. I would never condone that ever. Now, the fact that maybe he was in her mind controlling or like she just didn't like the way, I don't want you really going out, or I don't want you going out with these people or stuff like that. It could have been a thing where he saw something in her friends, or maybe it was like a dude friend and he didn't like that. Because I mean, let's be honest here, if she had dude friends, they're probably trying to sleep with her. And, as a dude, I wouldn't want my girl hanging out with some dudes that are just like begging, to find any little inkling that's wrong with the relationship so they can swoop in and, try to take her, whatever the case may be. And a lot of people like to argue, oh, well, if she can be taken, then she's not worth being with, and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, I get that, but I don't even want to put my girl in that position, to possibly be taken or whatever the case may be. Now, the fact that he was like, oh, your life should revolve around me or whatever, I think that's a little too much. It's like, bro, you need to kind of have some shit going on and you need to be busy doing your thing and kind of let her do her thing. I understand, having boundaries in a relationship is good. Having quality time together is a good thing, but you don't need to tell her like, oh, every waking moment, you should be spending your time with me or wanting to spend your time with me, or everything that you do should revolve around me. I think that's just dumb. I think that's doing too much. And then again, the fact that he got physical with her, that's an L, man. Don't ever, ever, ever hit a girl. That's an L for so many reasons. You don't need to be doing that, because for her, it was lucky that she was like, oh, I don't want to be malicious, and I don't want to, be mad at him. And she was trying to justify like the shitty behavior. And a lot of girls do this because of the history and because of how long they've been together and all that other hoopla. If I'm being honest with you, ladies, if he puts physical hands on you like that, you need to go. You need to leave. Get up out of there, because that is a dude who is just mentally unstable and not fit for a relationship at all. He needs to just go cool down. And I understand it's hard to get out of those relationships because those guys are just like, oh no, you ain't leaving me. Where you think you going? Beep, and so I can understand that, but it's just, if it's something like that where he won't let you leave, get some help. You got to get some help, from your mom, the police, somebody, you know what I mean? Grandma, whatever. You got to get some help, because those type of dudes, like she said, she didn't want to she didn't want it to get into a perpetual cycle, and that's what it would get into. Is he would just, anytime he got mad, he'd be like, oh, she let me hit her last time, so I'm going to just fucking keep hitting her until she gets it, and this and that, and da-da-da. And that's the type of shit that I cannot condone. That's terrible. In the beginning, though, I was kind of feeling like, okay, come on now, just because he doesn't want you hanging out with a certain group of people, or he may have seen some bad traits in the friends that you hang out with or the friends that you have, or the fact that you wanted to go out clubbing and partying when it's like you have a man and it's like, what are you doing? I could understand those kind of things. Why? Because he's trying to protect the relationship. He's like, I don't want to put you in positions where guys are trying to spike your drink and they're trying to take you home and they're trying to do all this and all that. You got to understand, dudes be desperate out here, especially the dudes at the club. Say she's at a club, it's probably like, I would say midnight, 1 o'clock, the club's about to close, whatever. These guys will get desperate. So desperate to the point where they will like spike a girl's drink or wait till she gets outside or she's alone and fucking smack her over the head and shit like that. And, that's how grape happens. And nobody wants that. You know what I mean? That's scary. And a lot of times us guys, we kind of have to prevent that from happening before it even happens. And the only way we can do that is a lot of times by saying, hey, I don't want you going out. I know how that looks and how that sounds to a woman, but we think about these things. I know that you guys don't. Oh, it's just having friends and having some drinks and going out and da-da-da. But we think about all that could go wrong because we know how guys are. We know how they can be. We know what they're capable of. We understand that you as the woman may not feel that way. You may not think a guy will do that to you or whatever, but we know that there's some desperate dudes out here and they will do some shit like that, especially if the girl is attractive enough, whatever the case may be. So, yeah, but all in all, I don't think she's the asshole in this situation just because of the fact that, he got physical, and there's no way ever to get physical with a girl. That's an L, and that's super messed up. And I hope that she got out of that relationship and stayed out of it. She didn't, oh, he changed, and no. Okay, our next scenario, why I left my boyfriend. I was in a relationship with my boyfriend for several years. We had shared countless memories, but as time went on, I began to realize that our values and priorities were no longer aligned. Okay. Throughout our relationship, he had a habit of canceling plans last minute or forgetting important events in my life. It made me feel unimportant and overlooked. Despite my efforts to communicate my feelings, his behavior remained unchanged. One day we had plans to celebrate my promotion at work, and Alex once again canceled due to a last-minute invitation from his friends. This was the final straw for me. I realized that his consistent lack of consideration was eroding my happiness and self-esteem. I grappled with the decision of whether to continue the relationship or not. On one hand, I had invested a significant amount of time and energy to our partnership, and there were moments of genuine connection. On the other hand, I couldn't ignore the consistent disregard for my feelings and needs. After much reflection, I decided to end the relationship. It wasn't a decision I made lightly, but I realized that I deserved a partner who respected and prioritized me. Staying in the relationship would have meant sacrificing my own self-worth and happiness. I've questioned whether I'm the asshole for ending the relationship or what might seem like a small issue to some. However, I believe that my decision was justified. Everyone deserves to be in a relationship where their feelings are acknowledged and respected. While the breakup was painful, it was ultimately the best choice for my emotional well-being and personal growth. Damn. Dude dropped the ball. Now, when she said, oh, I feel like an asshole for leaving for something so small, I can understand why she thought that. Reason being, because in the beginning, it can be small. Say they were going to go, I don't know, to the park or whatever, and he had to cancel for that. And then say on another time they had a dinner date, but then he had to cancel for that. It starts small, but I can tell you it was probably one of those things where it snowballed so much to the point where she was just like, anything I invite you to or anything that I plan and want to do, you don't want to do it. You're like, nah, I'm good. Nah, I have this going on. I have that going on. I made plans, this, and that. So I can see why she felt the way that she felt, and the reason why she left the way she left, because she looks at it like, dude, you don't want to hang out with me. You don't want to do things with me. You don't prioritize the effort that I'm putting into our relationship. That sucks. And that is terrible. For the guys out there, it's like, look, I understand that, you may have things going on and all that kind of stuff, but at the same time, if this is a girl that you're, taking serious and that you want to be with and stuff, you should make that time. I mean, she shouldn't even be the one planning stuff, if I'm being honest with you. Sure, every once in a while, it's great for a girl to plan some stuff, but if I'm being honest with you, majority of the time, y'all niggas should be planning shit, okay? Y'all should be planning things. As the man, you should be planning things, wanting to do stuff with her. Now, even the fact that, like, her promotion or whatever happened, like, he should have been the one to plan something for her promotion. She shouldn't have to do that. Bro, why aren't you taking the lead in this relationship? And I think that's what it was, is there was not enough leadership from his position in that relationship. And I think that's what made the relationship crumble for her, because she looked at it like, dude, I want a leader. I want somebody that, I can look up to, that I can follow behind, that I can actually get behind. And, I have a strong man, beside me, and it makes our relationship stronger and stuff like that. And his leadership just was womp. And I think he failed. He failed so miserably. And that's why she left. I'm surprised she didn't cheat on him, because, man, there's a lot of girls that would do that. They'd be like, shoot, my dude is inadequate and he's whack and he never wants to hang out with me anyway. So I'm going to go find a dude that does want to hang out with me, that does want to do stuff with me and will plan things for me, knowing that I have these certain things coming up, such as her promotion and things like that. So it's like, bro, you had a huge opportunity to really show your girl that you care about her, because this has been snowballing for so long, and the promotion would have been a perfect opportunity to do that. But what did you do? You dropped the ball, and you dropped the ball hard on her, bro. Man, and that sucks. That really sucks. But I'm sure the breakup is going to make him realize all that he's messed up on, because I'm sure he feels super stupid. Like, oh man, I let go of such of a great girl. I fucked up, man. Oh my God. You know what I mean? And if I was her, don't, no, nope, don't be with that dude, because he's just like the last girl was saying, how if she would have stayed, it would have been a perpetual thing. It's the same with you. It's just going to be a perpetual thing. He feels like, oh, I got away with it once, I can do it again. And he's just not going to care at that point. And so I think it's just an L altogether. All right, we got our next one. Why I left my boyfriend. I was in a relationship with my boyfriend for 2 years. While we shared many happy moments, there were significant issues that made me question the future of our relationship. Ooh. Throughout our time together, I noticed that he had a habit of making plans and then canceling them last minute. It was just occasional, but it became a pattern that affected our ability to spend quality time together. See, I was just like the last girl. I can tell it was the exact same thing that this girl just mentioned. It was happening over and over and over again, and she's just like, dude, I can't count on you. This behavior left me feeling unimportant and undervalued. One day, we had plans to celebrate our anniversary. Oh, he really fucked up. And I was really looking forward to it. However, on that day, he called to cancel, citing work commitments. It wasn't the first time this had happened, and I felt hurt and disappointed that he couldn't prioritize our special day. Oh, that's an L. I bet the ladies are in the comments like, yup, you better have left him. That's our anniversary. Fuck you doing? I was torn between wanting to salvage the relationship and realizing that I deserved better treatment. I questioned whether I was being too demanding or if I should give him more chances to change his behavior. Oh, and this is where you ladies go wrong. Because if you keep letting them get away with it, you're just enabling that. And then like even with the previous two girls, it's just going to be a perpetuating thing of, oh, I got away with it. She don't care. Yada, yada, yada. Oh, my goodness. I understand, though. They got history and all that, but that's bad. I knew that. But deep down, I knew that consistently feeling let down was affecting my happiness and self-esteem. After much reflection, I made the difficult decision to end the relationship. It wasn't an easy choice as I cared about him and cherished the good times we had. However, I realized that staying in a relationship that is constantly leaving me feeling unimportant was taking a toll on my emotional well-being. I grappled with whether I'm the asshole for ending the relationship over what might seem like a minor issue. However, it was just about canceling plans. It was about valuing and respecting the time that we chose to spend together. While leaving was painful, it was a step towards prioritizing my own happiness and emotional health. I hope that both of us can learn from this experience and grow individually. Yeah, he needs to do a lot of growing, because it's like, dude, if you don't want to spend time with your girl, bro, newsflash, somebody else will. I mean, I'm going to just keep it hundo P here. Like, if you don't want to spend time with your girl, bro, somebody else will. And that's a scary thought to think, because, you know, you out here thinking like, oh, you know, I'm getting what I need to get done. I understand it was work, but on a day like your anniversary, bro, oh, man, you ain't going to hear the end of it. Even if they stayed together. Think about it like this. Even if they stayed together, she would hold that over his head for the next 10, 15, 20, however long that relationship lasts. She would hold it over him day in, day out. You know, even if he gets the next anniversary right, she was just like, oh, you know, good thing you made this anniversary good, because the last anniversary you didn't show up, you know, and she's going to continue to use that against him. And then it'll get to a point where, you know, he's just like, all right, fuck this shit, I'm going to leave, because now he feels demoralized. And it's like, I mean, but bro, you kind of did it to yourself. You kind of demoralized yourself. You gave her that ammunition to use, and that's on you, man. You know, the fact that you did that, I mean, come on, man. You got to understand that, yeah, she's going to be upset about that. She's going to be upset about that for a long time, because let me tell you, man, you know, girls don't forget those kind of things. They just don't. And so, yeah, that was a wild L, especially the fact that it was his anniversary. You know, you guys got to remember them anniversaries. All right, we got our next one. Why I left my boyfriend. I had been in a relationship with my boyfriend for about 3 years. While we shared many happy moments, there were growing issues that made me question the health of our relationship. As time went on, I began to notice that he was becoming increasingly possessive and controlling. He would question my whereabouts, monitor my social media activity, and even got angry if I spent time with friends or family without him. Friends I can understand to a degree, but your family, that's kind of wild. Yeah, does he not trust her family? Does he not like her family? You know, or maybe the family doesn't like him. Maybe, I don't know. His behavior was suffocating, and it made me feel like I was losing my sense of self. Despite multiple conversations about his behavior, he didn't seem willing to change. Our arguments became more frequent, often escalating into yelling matches. I felt trapped and unable to express myself without fearing his reaction. It was clear that the relationship was becoming toxic. After a particularly intense argument, I realized that staying in the relationship was damaging my emotional well-being. I had to try to communicate my feelings and concerns, but the situation wasn't improving. I knew that I deserved respect, trust, and the freedom to be myself in a relationship. I decided to end the relationship not out of spite, but for my own mental and emotional health. It was a painful decision because I cared for Alex, but I recognized that I couldn't compromise my well-being for the sake of the relationship that was causing more harm than good. I've questioned whether I'm the asshole for leaving him. Part of me wonders if I should have been more patient or understanding of his struggles. However, I also know that staying in a toxic relationship would have been detrimental to my self-esteem and happiness. Ultimately, I believe that prioritizing my well-being was the right choice, even if it meant ending the relationship. Yeah. Okay. I'm going to break it down because in the beginning, I don't think he was too possessive and controlling in some ways. And I'll explain why. As far as like questioning the whereabouts, I mean, maybe I'm not even going to say maybe. Like to a guy, a lot of times we do want to know what's going on, because as men we understand that even a girl in a relationship, there are times where a vulnerability where a girl can maybe cheat, or she's lying about where she's going and stuff like that. And I understand a lot of women will argue, oh, well, can't you just trust us? Can't you just trust us? Can't you just trust us? And it's like, that's fine, but you have to understand there's only so much trust that I can give you, until a lot of times it does slip. And, you do mess up and you do, oh my God, it was a mistake, or I was drunk, or this and that. Things happen, and for us as the guys, a lot of times we have to negate that as much as possible. We have to negate the accidental mistakes that ladies can make as much as possible. We try as much as possible to negate that. That way, the whole you coming home and being like, oh my God, I'm so sorry I slept with another person, I got drunk and this and that and blah, blah, blah. That doesn't happen. You see what I mean? Now, I don't advocate it for, your girl can't be herself or she can't go out at all ever. But I do understand that, from the male perspective, you have to look at it like maybe there was something about her that maybe he didn't trust too much. Maybe it was a thing that in her past relationships, she cheated on her exes. And, that maybe put a bit of caution in his head and stuff, because he was even monitoring the social media activity. And so she may be the type of girl that does post very frequently. She might post herself a lot. I mean, it doesn't even have to be a thing of like, posting pictures of her in scantily clad clothing. It's just the fact that, she could be posting in a way that makes her look single. She could be posting in a way that makes her look available, and guys coming in and messaging her and all this kind of stuff. It's just the temptation that I believe that he was trying to negate as much as possible. The temptation of other men, I don't mean from her end. A lot of girls are not really tempted too much from a lot of guys, just because you got to understand, women only like 2% of men, if I'm being honest with you. They're only really attracted or like interested into getting to know like 2% of men that are strangers to them. 98% of men are like practically invisible to a lot of women. But it's like, just because there's that 2%, a lot of times we have to do a little bit of, policing, I guess you would have to say, on your social media, just to make sure that, this shit ain't happening, or that you at least post, your man and post your boyfriend and stuff like that. And so I can understand from that perspective and point of view. Now, if the fact that he was upset over her spending time with her family makes no sense to me at all. That's her family, bruh. That's her family. What are we talking about here? That's her family. She should be able to hang out with her family. I don't see anything wrong with that. I don't know why he would be upset over that. Her friends, I kind of could understand because, they may influence her, to kind of do something dumb or do something that might jeopardize the relationship, depending on how her friends are or how he sees her friends. But the family thing, I didn't understand at all. I was like, what are you getting at right there? What do you mean by that? Because that's her family. You know what I mean? So I can understand how that got into it. And I can guarantee you a lot of these arguments were because of the fact that, she wanted to go out a lot and, he didn't like that. He didn't want her going out. He didn't want her, putting herself in these compromising positions where, she could possibly make the mistake of cheating because she was drunk, because, maybe her friend told her to do it, or maybe dude, offered to, I don't know, pay her a bunch of money, whatever the case may be. It's just the fact that I think she wanted to go out and he didn't want her to go out for whatever reason. And I think that's what their fights were about. And that's why they were having these yelling matches and all this and all that. And so I think she just kind of lost respect for him over that, which kind of sucks because it's just like all he's doing in the relationship is just trying to make sure that his girl is not in compromising positions, which I personally see nothing wrong with. And when you look at it like that, it makes sense. You're like, well, yeah, okay. He just didn't want his girl in dangerous and precarious situations, which us as the guy, I mean, that's what we're doing. We're here to protect you, right? And so a lot of times we kind of have to look into the future for you and negate as much of that as possible, and when you're going out with you and your girlfriends, yeah, there's multiple of you, but they're not gonna step in to try to fight a guy if a dude he got rejected at the bar by your girl and then he decides, oh, I'm gonna wait until she walks outside and then I'm gonna kidnap her. You know what I mean? Like, her friends aren't gonna save her, and that's the type of thing that women have to kind of just get into their minds and understand that point of view and not just look at it as, oh, he's being insecure and he's just being controlling. And it's like, we're being concerned, if anything. So like I said, I understand why she broke up with him, but I just think that if she would have understood what he was trying to do and where he was going from there, I think it would have been a little more easier for her to kind of understand, like, okay, maybe you are right. Maybe I don't want to put myself in those precarious or dangerous positions, or possibly dangerous situations, let me say. And that would ease his mind a little bit, because a lot of women also try to argue, oh, what, you want me texting you like every hour all night and this and that. And it's like, it's not about that. It's simply just, we want to know that if you're going to go out without me, that you're going to be protected against these thirsty dudes. And so that's just what, I'm getting from that. Yeah. At the same time, I guess, you could argue too, maybe he could have communicated that to her, in a way that, she could understand. I get it. It's kind of dumb. Oh, I should be able to just tell her that, and then she just be able to kind of stop, think, instead of just reacting and being like, oh my God, you're just controlling. You just don't care. So I can understand it from both sides. But for me, in that situation, I think it was just a thing of he just didn't want her in crazy situations. The only thing I think he was wrong about was the whole family thing. Bro, come on, bro. That's her family. I see nothing wrong with that. I think that's kind of dumb. All right, let's get into our fifth situation. Why I left my boyfriend. I was in a relationship with my boyfriend for 3 years. Our journey started out wonderful. But as time went on, there were some issues that made me question the future of our relationship. He and I had differing opinions on several important matters. We often disagreed on how to handle finances, our social lives, and even our long-term goals. While differences are natural in any relationship, it felt like we were consistently at odds and struggling to find common ground. Despite my attempts to communicate and compromise, our arguments became more frequent and intense. I started feeling like I started feeling like I was losing my sense of self in the relationship, consistently bending and accommodating his preferences and priorities. It was emotionally draining, and I realized that our values and expectations for the relationship were becoming incompatible. The breaking point came during a conversation where he dismissed my feelings about an important decision that would impact both of us. Instead of understanding my perspective, he brushed it aside and acted like my concerns didn't matter. In that moment, I realized I couldn't continue sacrificing my happiness and sense of self for the relationship. I made the difficult decision to end the relationship. I knew it would be painful for both of us, but I believed it was the best choice for my own well-being and personal growth. Leaving allowed me to reclaim my identity and prioritize my own happiness. I feel like she kind of made that worse than it actually was. I mean, I would love to have a little more in-depth detail on what that decision was, because if it's a decision that impacts them both, I think it was kind of a little more in his right to kind of be the man and step up and decide and make the decision. I understand that she felt that, you know, she wasn't he wasn't understanding of her perspective and that he brushed it aside. But I would think as a man, you would be the one to kind of make that ultimate decision, you know, because I get it impacts you both. But I would love to have more information on that, because she kind of made it seem worse than it actually was. And so, okay. I've questioned whether I'm the asshole for leaving the relationship, especially since we had shared good moments in the past. However, I believe that prioritizing my own mental and emotional health doesn't make me a bad person. It's important to recognize when a relationship is no longer fulfilling or healthy, to make choices that align with our own well-being. While I empathize with his feelings, I know that leaving was the right decision for me. Okay. So I think that it was a thing where she was making all the decisions in this relationship, and I think she was fed up with having to make all the decisions. Because you got to understand, you know, your girl is going to look towards you for leadership. And when it comes to big decisions like finance and maybe your place to live and, you know, things that impact you both, I definitely believe that you should obviously ask your girl, you know, hey, what do you think? But ultimately, you as the man should be the one that makes the final decision on those things. Yes, listen to her opinion, take her side into accountability, but I think that you as the man should be making the final decision. When she said that he made a decision and, you know, she felt like, oh my God, you didn't even listen to my side of it, or you didn't consider my side of it. I think he did, and then he just made a decision and she got mad at it. I think that's what it was. She made it seem like it was a bigger thing than it actually was. Now, I don't know that for sure. I really don't. I wish she would have said what that decision was, and then I could be able to give a little more of a clear, decisive response to it. But my thing is, don't ever give your girl this kind of mindset where she feels like, okay, I'm going to be the one to pretty much be making all the decisions because he can't decide, or he can't make that final decision. He's always leaving it up to me. And I think that's where she got in her head about, is that throughout this relationship, she's been the one making all of the last minute decisions. And so then it left her to feel like, okay, now that there's this big decision going on, we're going to talk about it. And then he decided to decide on something. He made the decision, and then she's like, wait, what? No. I make the decisions around here. What are you doing? Why are you making a decision? I think that's what she got upset about, because he was just not being a leader at that point throughout the whole relationship. He just wasn't. He wasn't being a leader in the relationship. He wasn't showing her that he can be decisive and make decisions. So she felt like she had to be that. And so then the moment he made a decision, she just blew her top and was just like, what? So my thing is, guys out there, what you need to do is be the decision maker in the relationship from the get-go. From the get-go, you need to be the decision maker, because if you let your girl make decisions, the moment that you make a decision and you decide something for the relationship, whether it's super important or it's not, then she's just going to get this whole spinning notion in her head like, wait a minute, what? I make all the decisions. Why are you making a decision? You see what I mean? And so then she kind of throws that kind of back on you, like, oh, well, you didn't like consider my opinion. You didn't even consider my point of view, this and that. She's just going to throw that back on you, and it's low-key going to be an L. And that's why I say make the decisions in the relationship starting from the beginning, so that way you don't even run into this, because that's what it was. That's what it was. She made all the decisions in that fucking relationship, and then the moment he makes a decision, she wants to turn it around on him, and I think that's what it was. Okay, we're going to get into our last situation here. Why I left my boyfriend. I had been in a relationship with my boyfriend for a little over a year. We had shared some wonderful moments together, but there were underlying issues that were causing strain in our relationship. Throughout our relationship, he had shown a lack of consideration for my feelings and needs. He often made plans without consoling me, canceled last minute, or dismissed my opinions. These actions left me feeling undervalued and neglected, and it seemed like my concerns were falling on deaf ears. One evening, we had planned a special date night that was important to me. However, he decided to go out with his friends instead, leaving me to feel hurt and disappointed. It was the final straw that made me realize I couldn't continue in a relationship where my feelings weren't being respected. After the incident, I took some time to reflect on our relationship. I realized that I deserved to be with someone who valued my emotions and treated me with respect. It was a difficult decision, but I knew that ending the relationship was the best choice for my own well-being. Leaving him wasn't an easy decision, and I've questioned whether I'm the asshole for ending the relationship. Part of me feels guilty for walking away, especially because there were good times too. However, I ultimately believe that prioritizing my own emotional health and happiness was the right thing to do. While it was painful, I hope that both of us can learn to grow from this experience. This last one's a bit of a tough one, because I would love to be able to just say, oh, baby girl, all you got to do is, talk to your man and, let him know what's going on. But sadly, it was falling on deaf ears. Like she said, he wasn't really paying attention. And a lot of times that's an L. And a lot of times, this goes both ways for guys and girls. When you're in that kind of relationship, a lot of times you have to break up with them. Because when you break up with them, and I wouldn't say just like break up and move on, but just kind of break up and give it a second. You know what I mean? Give it a week, give it 2 weeks, give it a little time for them to realize what life is like without you. Because once they realize what life is like without you, then a lot of times they're like, oh shit, I should have been willing to listen to, my girl. I should have been willing to listen to my guy. I should have been willing to hear them out, and maybe I was doing wrong things, because now they got time to reflect. They're wondering what's going on. How did this happen? How did I get dumped? How did I get broken up with? Yada, yada, yada. And I think that's what a lot of times you have to do in those situations. If you're just in that situation, you break up with them. And let them see what life is like without you. And once they, have that bit of epiphany and they're like, oh shit, this kind of sucks, then I think the light bulb turns on in their light and they have a little moment of realization, and they're like, oh yeah, maybe I should have, paid more attention to my significant other. Maybe I should have been a little more attentive. I should have heard them out, this, and that. And I can guarantee you, the moment that they ask to see you again, they're going to be sitting there like, hey, I fucked up. I messed up. I didn't realize I was doing this, blah, 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 blah. And I think that's the best course of action with that one. There's not much to say on that, just because, she did the right thing in that situation. Just kind of leave. Don't really move on or anything, but just kind of let them see life without you. And then, they're going to start to realize like, oh, no, yeah, I done screwed up. So I think that's a good way that she went about it, and I can guarantee you he hit her up later and was just like, oh my God, I'm so sorry, I miss you, being a old punk nigga and shit. But that's gonna go ahead and wrap up today's episode of Am I the Asshole podcast. We had a good one. We had a lot of good conversations, and so I'll go ahead and see you guys later. If you guys want bite-sized pieces of the podcast, go ahead and follow us on Instagram and TikTok at Am I the Asshole podcast. Follow us on Patreon to go ahead and have your Am I the Asshole situation on the podcast, and exclusive episodes over there. And I'll see you guys later. Peace.